This is a poignant story that took place in the wake of the 9/11 terror attacks that had a very positive beginning, as you will read and hear in the newspaper article that follows. Various individuals and companies in Providence, Rhode Island, and most of all, Edward D. Cristofaro and his company, LDC, joined with myself and the Bowling Green Association to do something very special at Christmas in December 2001, the Angels of Courage Project. That goodwill continued afterward and for 2 more years, in which Ed and his company also fabricated 350 large silver medallions, which I designed for the 350th anniversary of the founding of New York City, to be placed on the huge Bowling Green Christmas tree in December 2003, using the remainder of the silver buried under the World Trade Towers that had been given to the Bowling Green Association by the bank that owned the buried silver. It was only in January 2004 when the Bowling Green Christmas tree came down and I sent these 350 6-inch pure silver medallions back to Ed to be cleaned and polished and returned to me, that the story turned very negative and remains so. First, here is the good part of this true story. Then I will tell you what happened later. This article is from the Providence, Rhode Island Journal, a daily newspaper, December 11th, 2001, On the Wings of Silver Angels by Mark Arsenault. Dateline, New York. On a pilgrimage to Ground Zero, to the site of the World Trade Center, Edward D. Cristofaro meets a widow. De Cristofaro, a third-generation jewelry maker from North Providence. He carries to the site 50 silver angels from Rhode Island in a tan canvas shoulder bag, Christmas ornaments he'd helped make from silver bullion recovered from the World Trade Center wreckage. Another 427 angels, one for each uniformed officer killed in New York on September 11th, decorates a 75-foot spruce at a public park a few blocks away. After Christmas, they will go to the families of the victims. Mrs. Stack is composed, chin up, breathing faint diesel exhaust under cloud-streaked blue skies yesterday, early in the crisp afternoon. Today was my husband's birthday, she tells him. With that, Edward de Cristofaro is struck dumb. He steps back, eyes welling with tears, and thinks about a silver angel his company helped make, the one that will be inscribed with the name of Lawrence T. Stack, commander of the Safety Battalion, who would have turned 59 yesterday. That ornament may be the nearest Mrs. Stack gets to recovering something of her husband from the pit. That totally overwhelmed me, de Cristofaro would say later in the day. Every year, she'll take that Christmas ornament out and hang it on her tree, and it will signify a life to her. Hundreds gathered last evening at Bowling Green Park, at the confluence of Broadway and Morris Street, near the financial district's famous giant charging bull sculpture, to see the silver Angels of Courage at the Bowling Green Association's annual Christmas tree lighting. The park is thick with history. Legend says it is where Native Americans completed the sale of Manhattan in 1626. British authorities fenced the Oval Park in 1771 to keep the locals from vandalizing a statue of King George. In 1776, colonists surged through the fence and smashed the lead likeness. Then they scooped up the scraps of lead, recast them into musket balls, and fired the king's statue at His Majesty's soldiers. More than 100 people from Rhode Island made the trip yesterday, many of them members and staff of the Manufacturing, Jewelers, and Suppliers of America, a Providence-based national jewelry trade organization. The delegation included Rhode Island Secretary of State Edward Inman and Cranston Mayor John O'Leary, who added his city's official Christmas ornament, a likeness of City Hall, to the Bowling Green tree. The Angels of Courage ornaments were inspired by Arthur Piccolo, chairman of the Bowling Green Association, a neighborhood betterment group. Piccolo is a high-speed talker known for his relentless dedication to the neighborhood. He learned from the newspapers in November that $250 million in gold and silver bullion recovered from a vault in No. 4 World Trade Center, the 9-floor Southeast Plaza building at the foot of the South Tower, was to be recovered and moved to a secret location, and the remnants of the building torn down. The precious bullion belonged to Toronto-based Scotiabank. Piccolo sent the international bank a request. Could he buy a bit of the bank's reported 935 tons of recovered silver? His fax reached Pam Agnew, the bank's director of public affairs. 417 of Scotiabank's 51,000 employees worldwide worked in New York City, 8 of them at the Trade Towers complex. They all got out alive, and they all knew people who didn't. Sell him WTC Recovery Silver. Unthinkable, she said. They gave it. Scotiabank split the sponsorship of the Angels themselves with the National Ethnic Coalition of Organizations and provided 38 bars of .999 pure silver bullion, each an inch thick, as long as a brick, and weighing more than 6 pounds. Some 237 pounds of silver in total, worth $17,000 US. Once we realized what it was for, it was easy to say yes, says Agnew. By Thanksgiving, Piccolo had a commitment for the precious metal, but no one to turn the silver into angels in time for Christmas. Firms that did that sort of work weren't interested. Too busy, they said, or not enough time. He found the manufacturing, jewelers, and suppliers of America on the internet. That was truly going to be my last phone call, Piccolo says. That was the most important call I ever made. The trade organization took down his information and called back with a list of companies by the end of the day. Morvillo and Company of North Providence melted the bars into a 2,000-degree cherry red broth and rolled the silver into a sheet, says Todd Morvillo, the president of the company, and a fifth-generation maker of jewelry products. DeCristofaro's company, LDC Inc. of Providence, stamped angels from the sheet, buffeted them into mirrors, and engraved them. Both companies donated their labor. The angel ornaments, winged silhouettes, hoisting trumpets, are each about the size of a man's hand and weigh almost 2 ounces. The silver in each is worth about $10. The ornament design came from clip art on Piccolo's computer. I found this generic angel buried in a computer program, he says. A generic angel, an unknown angel out of nowhere. In addition to the 427 angels, one for each lost rescue worker, LDC made another 50 inscribed with the names of the states to be presented to President Bush for the White House Christmas tree. End of article. After I returned these medallions to Ed and his company for cleaning and polishing, the one you see here is an example, one of a few extras. After returning them to Ed to be cleaned and polished in January 2004, he simply stopped communicating with me. Since then, I have made periodic attempts to retrieve the silver medallions, the 350 medallions. After erecting Christmas trees at Bowling Green beginning in 1986, larger and larger trees with each passing year, until 2005, when I was no longer able to raise the large funding required because some major corporate sponsors had left the Bowling Green area and I was not able to replace those donations. Ever since I have viewed these valuable, unique silver medallions, the only collectible from the 350th anniversary of New York City, and even more with a very special story about the source of the silver and the use of the medallions on the Bowling Green Christmas tree at the very place where New York City was founded. I saw them as a way to raise funds to bring back the Bowling Green Christmas tree. What has motivated this newest effort to get Ed DeCristofaro to return the medallions is that a few months ago, in a conversation with another individual from Providence both Ed and I know well, I found out Ed told him the medallions are still in a box, likely the original box I sent them to him in, and they are in the basement of the building where his business is. I have been trying to communicate with Ed DeCristofaro in recent weeks and months. I asked an attorney who is a friend and colleague to communicate with him also. Ed's only absurd reply to this attorney, stated in an email, is that I gave him the medallions. I gave Ed the medallions because I told him I no longer wanted them. Of course, that is preposterous. Both the attorney and I sent messages to him to send us any document that proves that I gave him the medallions. Of course, he has sent nothing. Most recently, I sent a very friendly email to Ed telling him I just wanted to get the medallions back and let's see if we can make some deal that will get him to do so. No reply to my email, and I then have tried calling him numerous times in the past weeks, most recently just a day ago, each time being told he is busy. I leave messages asking him to call me back, but he never does. Making matters worse, Ed DeCristofaro is a very successful businessman in Providence, Rhode Island, and he is now the chairman of the very group I first contacted back in November 2001 that put me in touch with him. So I decided it was long past due time to tell the story for the record of the stolen Bowling Green medallions and make sure everyone knows the truth. I still want these medallions returned. They can be used to fund the big Christmas tree at Bowling Green this year and also fund the recreation of the magnificent menorah we first used at Bowling Green in 1997, created by Arturo de Modica, the sculptor of Charging Bull. Ed DeCristofaro, stop being an unethical Grinch. Be the person you were back in 2001 and give back the Bowling Green medallions. Are you going to try to keep those medallions sitting in your basement until the day you die, since you cannot do anything else with them because they do not belong to you?